Marvel's new god, the man who outsmarted the Avengers. Like, share and subscribe. Episode 1. Iron Man vs. Iron Overlord? Generous gift crab. I'm definitely still dreaming. Looking at the big battle in front of him, Lin Fan couldn't help but be stunned in place. I saw that he was standing in a square at this time. There are many buildings standing around, and one of the buildings has a huge Stark logo on it. And in front of Lin Fan, a real man battle is being staged. The two sides of the battle are none other than others. It is the famous Iron Man in Marvel and the Iron Overlord. And just when Lin Fan was stunned, Ding detected that the host has crossed into the Marvel world, and the god-level understanding system is on. Lin Fan, system? Meanwhile, the fighting continued in the distance. Tony, this is all forcing me. You Stark fathers and sons have always been like this, confident and even conceited, and have never treated me like a human being. Obedestin roared, his gloomy face filled with a thick killing intent. Since it can't be used for me, then destroy it. Boom. The Iron Overlord like a small giant raised his arm high, and the cannon muzzle energy on his shoulder surging. A super electromagnetic cannon roared towards Iron Man. At this time, Iron Man experienced the previous series of battles, and the energy of the arc reactor on his chest had been exhausted, and there was no spare energy to dodge in the face of this blow. The super electromagnetic cannon roared, directly knocking Iron Man out more than 10 meters. And the direction he crashed into was exactly where Lin Fan was. The Iron Overlord followed, his huge body was like a steel chariot, directly crushing in strides. In an instant, Lin Fan's pupils suddenly shrunk, and his brain went blank. This sudden accident caught him off guard. Seeing Iron Man smashing over, Lin Fan's joy of obtaining the system completely disappeared, and only a thick unwillingness remained in his heart. Shouldn't this just pass through and get the system like the protagonist to the pinnacle of life? But why is he just about to burp at the beginning? For a while, Lin Fan was stupid. Get out of the way. Jarvis, start the backup hidden energy. Inside the steel warframe, Tony Stark exclaimed. He also discovered Lin Fan's existence. But at this time, Lin Fan was stunned there, he couldn't dodge at all, he could only try to activate the backup hidden energy. It's a pity that he is still one step slower. The moment he shouted, the steel armor was only a stone's throw away from Lin Fan. Seeing that Lin Fan would be smashed into a crushing fracture in the next second. But right now, Ding, the host encounters a crisis of life and death, triggers anti-heavenly understanding, and independently awakens the god-level bloodline, Apocalypse. Ding, congratulations to the host for obtaining an Omega-level superpower, magnetic control. Buzz. The moment the system prompt sounded, an extremely terrifying power swept out. The magnetic field within a radius of thousands of meters instantly twisted it. With Lin Fan as the center, it was like setting off an electromagnetic storm, and the invisible magnetic field turned into a terrifying wave and surged wildly. The Iron Man who was about to hit Lin Fan was directly overturned by this storm. The steel armor crashed right into the Iron Overlord who was following him. The two big guys who were still fighting fiercely just now were like a flatboat in the sea at this moment, rolling up and down with the surge of invisible magnetic fields. No matter how much they struggled, they couldn't break free from the shackles of the magnetic field. Including everything within a radius of a kilometer. With the twisted surge of the magnetic field, everything around it rises up, as if falling into a weightless state. There was only one person in the audience, that is, Lin Fan, standing in place with his eyes closed. For a moment, Tony Stark and Obedestin were stunned. What's going on? Tony Stark was so shocked that he didn't understand what was going on. Jarvis suddenly spoke at this moment. Sir, a disorder in the surrounding magnetic field has been detected, and the riot level is equivalent to the imbalance of the Earth's magnetic field caused by the explosion of the moon. Hearing this, Tony Stark was dumbfounded. Magnetic field imbalance caused by lunar eruption? How is this possible? Unless the moon is a meteorite hitting the moon, how can this change occur at the good end? But what happened in front of him proves the truth of Jarvis's statement. Suddenly, Tony Stark felt that there were not enough brain cells. What's all going on all about? Suddenly Tony Stark saw Lin Fan not far away, and subconsciously exclaimed. Why is he okay? The moment he shouted these words, his heart was suddenly shocked. Could it all be because of Lin Fan? You must know that just now, he almost hit Lin Fan because of the attack of the Iron Overlord, and then there was a change in front of him. If he hadn't guessed wrong, all this was probably caused by Lin Fan. The magnetic field imbalance detected 21 meters away is the most serious. At this moment, Jarvis spoke again. After analysis, there is an 87% probability that the anomaly was caused by the unknown Chinese youth. Shoo. Sure enough, it's him. Tony Stark's heart shook when he heard this. He couldn't believe it all. An ordinary human being can cause a magnetic field riot, even comparable to a moon explosion. Could it be that this Asian youth is still walking on the moon in human form? But at this time, he couldn't resist, let alone find out the truth. He could only watch himself flying up and down. And at the same time, in the center of the rioting magnetic field, Lin Fan stood silently in place. At this time, his whole person only felt that his soul was in a trance. An extraordinary power quietly flowed, constantly transforming his body and quietly carrying out qualitative transformation. Some kind of primordial transcendent bloodline power was stimulated. Episode 2. Outside the Stark building, on the square. As Lin Fan awakened the extraordinary bloodline, the superpower opened on its own, directly triggering a riot of magnetic fields within a radius of kilometers. Outside the square, Coulson and others watched this scene in shock. Pepper covered her mouth in disbelief. Oh my god. What the hell is going on here? Tony, he'll be fine. Coulson was silent for a while. As an agent of S.H.I.E.L.D., looking at the scene in front of him, he guessed a sensational truth. The world is not as simple as it seems. Secretly, superpowers have sprung up. Even a few days ago, a riot broke out during an experiment in the military, and a big green guy with a mutated body escaped. In this case, the answer is obvious. This is definitely a vision caused by the superpower and the initiator. Coulson couldn't help but look at Lin Fan on the square. The Asian young man stood silently, obtrusive in the chaotic square. How can this person's superpowers be so powerful? Coulson's heart shook for a while. The superpowers he had learned about before were at most physically enhanced, similar to his idol Captain America. But now the destructive power that Lin Fan displayed was already heaven-destroying. Didn't you see that strong as Iron Man also has no power to resist? In the face of such a powerful superpower, if this person wantonly destroys, I am afraid that even S.H.I.E.L.D. will have nothing to do with the other party. Quick! Contact the director, we need reinforcements. Without hesitation, Coulson immediately began to contact headquarters. Tony Stark's safety is not at risk. At the moment, there is nothing they can do but call for support, they can only watch it all. And at the same time, on the square. Damn it. Obedestin, who was also unable to resist, cursed angrily. Obviously, he was about to kill Tony Stark. But he didn't expect that at the critical moment, such a strange change occurred, which made his plan all frustrated. If this continues to be delayed, the official will soon arrive. At that time, it will be the death of his Obedestin. Impossible. When pigs fly. I, Obadi, am the winner. Obadiah's eyes were fierce, and the killing intent was boiling. Tony Stark must die today. Only if the other party dies and Stark Industries is leaderless, the official will keep him stable. Otherwise, Stark Industries will collapse, and the entire American stock market will collapse with it. So there can only be one alive between him and Tony Stark. Go and die. Without hesitation, Obedestin struck again. Although he could not act at will at this time, the many weapons he carried on his body could all operate normally. Along with the flow of energy, the super electromagnetic cannon slammed towards Lin Fan. That's right, it's Lin Fan. Obedestin also realized that Lin Fan was the initiator. As long as Lin Fan is solved, the vision will naturally disappear. At that time, with the breaking power of the Iron Overlord, Iron Man is not enough to worry about, and Tony Stark has not allowed him to pinch and rub the circle? In a state of rage, Obedestin didn't even think that he couldn't beat Lin Fan. At this point, he just wants to kill Tony Stark quickly. And his brainless behavior has already doomed to his own end. Boom! The energy cannon shot out, like a thunderous sound, and exploded directly in front of the Iron Overlord. Suddenly, the Iron Overlord's chest was directly sunken by the explosion. Obedestin, who was in the armor, was caught off guard, and was immediately dizzy by the explosion, and a mouthful of blood suddenly spewed out of his mouth. A heart-wrenching pain came, stimulating Obadestin to regain consciousness. Suddenly, his whole person was stupid. How is that possible? Why is this? What the hell is going on here? For a moment, Obadestin had some doubts about life. At this moment, Tony Stark, who was also bound by the magnetic field on the side, couldn't help but laugh. Obadiah, you are stupid enough. The magnetic field is distorted, and you even want to fire an energy cannon? It's like stepping on a non-Newtonian fluid. No matter how much force you use, it is just useless work, and it cannot shake non-Newtonian fluids at all. The only thing they could do right now was to hope that Lin Fan had no malice. But alas, Obadestin did something stupid. Tell me about how honest you are. But Obadestin apparently still doesn't know about it. Hearing Tony Stark's taunt, he suddenly turned hideous and roared incompetently. Bastard, you shut up for me. Huh. Tony Stark sneered disdainfully when he saw this. However, in his heart, he was even more shocked by Lin Fan's strength, which could no longer be calculated by common sense. It can interfere with the magnetic field with a mortal body, like a humanoid self-walking moon. What kind of divine is Lin Fan? And right now, under everyone's attention, Lin Fan slowly opened his eyes. Suddenly, the surrounding magnetic field exploded and twisted. A terrifying aftermath rippled and everything was twisted into a mass except for the two who were protected by the steel armor. Shoo! Suddenly, everyone gasped and was shocked. Lin Fan, on the other hand, secretly exhaled. The bloodline of the mutant ancestor is indeed extraordinary. Now in the Marvel world, I can be regarded as having the power of self-preservation. Thinking so in his heart, Lin Fan raised his eyes to look at Iron Man and Iron Overlord. Then it's time for revenge. Episode 3. Magnetic Energy Riot. Lin Fan's mind moved, and the surrounding magnetic field turned into an invisible storm and swept through. Within a radius of 1,000 meters, it becomes a magnetic field. And he is the master of this field. Under Lin Fan's manipulation, the magnetic force of the riot was like an invisible big hand, directly grabbing the Iron Overlord in front of him out of thin air. Staring at Obadestin inside the battle armor, Lin Fan sneered. You just wanted to kill me, right? Inside the Iron Overlord, Obadestin's face turned pale. And it's not just because of his previous injuries. At this time, facing Lin Fan's cold eyes, he was like facing a god, and he was a humble ant under the feet of the god. He subconsciously wanted to ask for mercy, but his throat seemed to choke. No matter how hard he tried, he couldn't say half a word. Humph. Get out of here. Lin Fan snorted coldly and waved his big hand sharply. Suddenly, the twisted magnetic field shook, directly twisting the Iron Overlord made of alloy into twists. Ultra-strong alloys are even like plasticine. Among them, Obadestin died directly. Originally, Lin Fan didn't want to kill, after all, he was just an ordinary person before, and he didn't have the slightest defense against crossing at all. But at the moment in the dangerous Marvel world, he must make himself fierce. Especially at this time, he is still under the limelight. Tony Stark. S.H.I.E.L.D. In front of these people, he must not have the slightest mercy. Otherwise, the trouble that follows will definitely be annoying. And most importantly, Obadestin wanted to kill him before, and suddenly experienced a life and death crisis. Of course, he had to vent it fiercely. As the Iron Overlord twisted into scrap iron, Lin Fan only felt that his whole heart was beating wildly. The blood in his body boiled like magma. This feeling of mastering extraordinary power and arbitrarily deciding his life and death, I am afraid that no one can refuse, right? Shoo! Oh my god! At the same time, everyone gasped in unison. They couldn't believe what they saw. Everyone couldn't imagine what kind of great power could twist the Iron Overlord into a twist. You know, it's made of super-strength alloys. Even missiles may not be able to break through. But in front of Lin Fan, the Iron Overlord was like plasticine, wantonly pinched and rounded by Lin Fan. Everyone who watched this scene was shocked at once. This person's strength is really terrifying. Coulson looked solemn and inexplicably gave birth to an uneasy emotion. New York suddenly appeared such a strong superpower. If Lin Fan wanted to do something, let alone S.H.I.E.L.D., who in all the official organizations could stop him. I am afraid that only the use of nuclear substances can eliminate such a terrifying existence. Yikes. Without saying what everyone thought, Lin Fan casually threw the Iron Overlord aside. Immediately, he flew up and prepared to leave. The deterrent effect has been achieved, and he must leave here quickly, so as not to be targeted by the people of S.H.I.E.L.D. But at this moment, a trembling voice suddenly sounded. Wait. Wait a minute, sir. Huh? Lin Fan froze and turned around. Looking at Tony Stark, who stumbled to the front, he was unmoved on the surface and said indifferently. What's up with you? Want to avenge him? Ahem. Tony Stark was dumbfounded when he heard this. He was so frightened that he coughed again and again, afraid that Lin Fan would make a move without saying a word, turning him into a twist like the Iron Overlord. Misunderstood, sir. Forced to endure the horror in his heart, he quickly waved his hand and said. I just wanted to ask sir for a favor. Help? Lin Fan frowned when he heard this. He didn't expect Tony Stark to say this. You know, they've never been in contact before. As the saying goes, if something goes wrong, there will be a demon. Tony Stark saw him kill Obedestin, and not only did not fear him, but took the initiative to run over and ask for help. If it had been before, Lin Fan would definitely have refused without even thinking about it. But now he is also fearless. Faced with the pickup of this well-known superhero, he was a little curious about the purpose of the other party. Tell me, what do you want me to help you with first? Lin Fan asked indifferently. Phew. Tony Stark was relieved to see this. Fortunately, he bet right. Originally, he almost bumped into Lin Fan. The other party's strength was so strong, it couldn't be easier to trouble him. But Lin Fan just killed Obedestin and was ready to leave. Obviously, Lin Fan was not an indiscriminate murderer. After realizing this, he immediately had the idea of wanting to befriend Lin Fan, and the purpose was to ask Lin Fan for a favor. Lin Fan's superpower is to control the magnetic field, doesn't that mean? Can the other party help him remove the shrapnel remaining in his heart? Regarding his own little life, Tony Stark struggled again and again, and finally decided to talk to Lin Fan. But looking at the messy environment around him, he said tentatively. This is not the place to chat, sir, or shall we change places? Well, you can. Glancing at Coulson and the others in the distance, Lin Fan nodded indifferently. He also doesn't want to be a clown in public. Even if everyone fears him, there are some things that cannot be discussed in the open, especially not by the people of S.H.I.E.L.D. This is actually a snake and S.H.I.E.L.D. organization, like a dog skin plaster. It's better not to be involved. Sir, please. Tony Stark took off his armor with difficulty and led Lin Fan directly towards the Stark Industrial Building. In the distance, Coulson and the others immediately ran over quickly. Pepper walked in front and looked at Lin Fan fearfully, and then looked at Tony worriedly. Tony, are you all right? Episode 4. I'm okay, Pepper, don't worry. Tony Stark waved his hand disapprovingly. Speaking of which, he also had to thank Lin Fan. Although the destructive power that Lin Fan erupted was very terrifying, it was only against the Iron Overlord, and he was simply affected slightly. So Obedestin died miserably, and he didn't have any big problems. Pepper, Tony Stark wanted to pull Pepper away. But seeing Coulson and the others, he paused and said in a deep voice. Everyone, I am in poor health. I am afraid that I will not have time to receive you today. Please take care of yourself. Saying that, Tony Stark turned directly and left. Looking at his steady steps, where does his body look like he is holding sick? Pepper was a little embarrassed to see this. She smiled awkwardly at Coulson and explained. Mr. Coulson, you know, Tony has just experienced a vicious attack and it makes sense that he needs to rest. Ahaha, Miss Pepper is right. Coulson resisted the desire to complain and said seriously. But you know, something like this happened, and we need to ask about it routinely. Saying that, he raised his eyes to look at Lin Fan, who walked into the mansion. Originally, he wanted to say that he would routinely question Lin Fan, but as soon as the words came to his lips, he swallowed them back abruptly. Remembering Lin Fan's terrifying before, how dare he say anything routine to ask? Didn't you see how miserable Obedestin died in Iron Overlord? Well, I'll tell Tony. Pepper nodded when he heard this, saying that he would tell it on his behalf. But she is well aware of the character of her boss. I'm afraid that when this matter comes later, it will only be attributed to a terrorist attack, and then it will not be resolved. Goodbye, Mr. Coulson. Pepper left directly and quickly chased after Tony Stark. Only Coulson was left in place, messy in the wind. Lin Fan ignored him. Tony Stark hated him. Pepper perfunctory him. It really makes sense that he was a level 8 agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. to be so despised. Only Coulson's injured world has been achieved. At the same time, Taj inside. Ancient Master Yi sat in the quiet tea room, his eyes closed, and his mind flowed in the infinite river of time. And around him, wisps of dark power loomed. Suddenly, the ancient mage suddenly opened his eyes. Looking at the west through the space, her eyes flashed with different colors, and she murmured to herself. There is no cause and effect, fate is bad, this person. Inside the Stark Industrial Building. Because of Lin Fan's indiscriminate entry, there was no Tony Stark detonation here, and it was still very well preserved. At this time, Tony Stark took Lin Fan to the office on the top floor. It can only be said that it is worthy of Tony Stark, and the luxury of the office is simply indescribable. Sitting on the leather sofa, Lin Fan only had one feeling. Comfortable. Opposite Lin Fan, Tony Stark poured himself a glass of whiskey. Fong Kai's series of battles are too thrilling. At this time, he was still a little trance, he needed alcohol to stimulate himself, so as not to be rude in front of Lin Fan. Picking up the whiskey, he looked at Lin Fan tentatively and asked. Sir, do you drink tea, or? No thanks. Lin Fan waved his hand directly and said indifferently. Just call me Lin Fan, Mr. Stark, you have something to say, I don't like to beat around the bush. This is not that Lin Fan deliberately did not speak and pretended to be cold. It's because he's not good at intrigue. Especially when he just crossed over, he is completely a black household, and there are many mistakes. Hee, Mr. Lin is really cheerful. Tony Stark looked slightly startled. However, in the face of Lin Fan's coldness, he only attributed it to the loneliness of the master, so he did not feel anything wrong. And he is not good at beating around the bush, so he said bluntly. Fong Kai, I saw that Mr. Lin's superpowers are very powerful. I'm sorry, Lin Fanchang, I didn't have the idea of prying into Mr. Lin's privacy. Saying Tony Stark smiled apologetically. He was afraid that Lin Fan would misunderstand him to pry into his privacy, so he quickly explained. I'm just curious, what Mr. Lin just used should be to master magnetic force or magnetic field, right? Pepper on the side cast a curious look. Superpowers? This is a very unfamiliar term. Because in reality, she never thought that there would be superpowers. But at this time, Lin Fan was sitting there alive. Thinking of the terrifying strength that Lin Fan had shown before, she couldn't help but get a little nervous, for fear that Tony would anger Lin Fan because of this. Yes. Meeting the gazes of the two, Lin Fan nodded indifferently. He leaned back on the couch and explained casually. That's magnetic field control. Really? Tony Stark was overjoyed when he heard this, and sure enough, as expected. At this moment, he suddenly became a little urgent. The shrapnel left on his chest has seriously threatened his safety, and may one day take his life. But even the best surgeon couldn't help him remove the shrapnel. No one dares to do this kind of surgery on the heart. Originally, he didn't have any hope before, until he saw Lin Fan control the magnetic field and twist the Iron Overlord into a twist. He immediately realized that this might be an opportunity to save himself. Phew. Taking a deep breath to calm his mood, Tony Stark looked directly at Lin Fan. Lin Fan's heart tightened when he looked at him with hot eyes. Isn't this supposed to be a gay? Even Pepper on the side showed a strange expression, and his gaze kept flowing between the two. Tony Stark was oblivious to this and said sincerely. Please, Mr. Lin. Please help me. Episode 5. Mr. Lin, please be sure to help. Looking at Lin Fan sincerely, Tony Stark felt a little embarrassed. Previously, he would never take the initiative to ask others for help, because it was others who begged him and wanted to get all kinds of benefits from him. But now, for the sake of his small life, he could only ask Lin Fan for help. And this may be his only chance. Ordinary medical treatment could not help him remove shrapnel, unless he was willing to gamble with his life. But not now. With the strong strength shown by Lin Fan, it was very simple to take out the shrapnel. The superpower of mastering the magnetic field is a bug. And coincidentally, Lin Fan's ability naturally restrained him Iron Man, unless he could create a steel armor without any metal. Faced with Tony Stark's request, Lin Fan shook his head. This suddenly made Tony Stark's heart sink. It's over, it's rejected. Mr. Lin. Pepper's face was full of anxiety, and he quickly begged. Please, sir, Tony really needs your help, please help. She also thought about Tony's physical condition at this time. If they could get Lin Fan's help, then Tony would be able to get rid of the threat, so they must not miss this opportunity. As long as Lin Fan promised, they could promise Lin Fan any conditions. After all, nothing is more important than Tony's health. It's not that I don't say yes, but... Lin Fan shook his head helplessly, and said a little speechlessly. You said you wanted me to help. Without saying anything, how do I know whether to say yes or not? Hearing this, the atmosphere suddenly froze. An emotion called embarrassment is spreading. Tony Stark looked frozen, feeling that people were stupid, and he couldn't find a place to get into. It turned out that he patronized the brain supplement and forgot about the business. He really didn't say what he wanted Lin Fan to help. At this time, facing Lin Fan's gaze, Tony Stark felt that he had no place to be self-contained, and it was really a shame to be thrown to his grandmother's house. Pepper on the side was also full of strange faces, and he was directly stunned there. This scene can be called a large-scale social death scene. Aha. Tony Stark smiled and said apologetically. This is my mistake, and I hope Mr. Lin you don't care, this is actually the case. He immediately explained his situation. As the topic shifted, the awkward atmosphere gradually eased, and Pepper forced himself not to laugh out loud. It was the first time she had seen Tony's embarrassed look. But it looks really cute. If it weren't for Lin Fan's presence, she really wanted to take pictures with her mobile phone and collect the black history of her boss. So it is. Not to mention Pepper's careful thinking, Lin Fan said when he heard this. You want me to use my superpowers to help you clear the shrapnel from your heart, don't you? That's right, that's it. Tony Stark nodded earnestly. Pepper also looked at Lin Fan with a blank eye. When it comes to Tony's safety, she cares more than anyone else, and her face is full of tension and expectation. Facing the expectations of the two, Lin Fan was silent. But this is not because he is ready to refuse, but because he is thinking. He didn't think about getting involved with each other. But there is no doubt that as long as he chooses to help Tony Stark, he is bound to get a great favor. Even if he asked for a stake in Stark Industries, it is estimated that the other party would not refuse. After all, he is still a very powerful superpower himself. But Lin Fan didn't want shares, because money was just a foreign object to him. But that doesn't mean he doesn't want anything. As a black household crossing through, there is no identification, and food, clothing, housing and transportation are all problems. And Lin Fan happened to be a person who didn't like trouble the most. So Tony Stark's role comes into play. If it's Tony Stark, it might be a good choice to befriend him. After some deep groaning, Lin Fan had already made up his mind. He nodded at Tony Stark. It's just a trifle, I can help you. But... Hearing that Lin Fan still had a request, Tony Stark, who had not had time to be happy, froze. But then he patted his chest seriously and said, Mr. Lin has a request, just say, no matter what it is, I will definitely meet Mr. Lin's conditions. Not that serious. Lin Fan shook his head and said indifferently. For some reason, I need you to help me get an identity certificate, my name is Lin Fan, and the rest is whatever, can I do it? He did not make excessive demands. And when Tony Stark heard this, he also looked strange, but he didn't expect Lin Fan to have no identification. There are only two reasons for this. One is because Lin Fan is a stowaway. The second is because Lin Fan came to human society for the first time. Before that, Lin Fan had never lived in a metropolis. The first reason is easier to understand. But Tony Stark thinks it's unlikely. After all, no matter how Lin Fan looked at it, it didn't look like he would fall into the situation of a smuggler's. And if the reason is the latter. So who is Lin Fan? Hidden people, or aliens? Episode 6. Lin Fan is an alien? Somehow, Tony Stark was taken aback by his own speculation. But on the surface, he remained silent and said, Mr. Lin, rest assured, this little thing is not a requirement at all. I will immediately ask people to send you the identity certificate. It is absolutely common all over the world, and there will be no problems. Thank you. Lin Fan smiled, and his indifferent expression eased somewhat. It seems that asking Tony Stark for help is a wise choice, at least to save him a lot of trouble. If you can, you may be able to deepen your cooperation with each other. Tony Stark can also have wool on him. According to the setting of the system, if you want to trigger the anti-heavenly understanding condition is unknown, Lin Fan needs to explore it on his own. In this uncertain situation, winning in stability is the key. And Tony Stark is a great toolman. Mortal wisdom, comparable to God's. But the strength of the war is 5 scum. Such a useful tool person is simply suitable for verifying system settings. Tony Stark, are you polite? Lin Fan secretly calculated. But on the surface, he pointed at Tony Stark and said, "You helped me, it's my turn to help you, take off your clothes." Hearing this, Tony suddenly became stupid. Why did you start undressing? Aren't we talking about mutual help? Your car is too fast, and the playboy said that he can't keep up. Pepper on the side widened his eyes even more, not to mention how strange his expression was. That kind of looks like saying that you guys aren't going to be gay, right? I'm not, don't talk nonsense. Feeling the same gaze of the two, Lin Fan quickly denied the 3 times. But on the surface he is a serious book. What's the problem? If you don't take off your clothes, how can I help you get the shrapnel out? Or do you want to spit it out of your mouth? Or... Saying that, Lin Fan smiled teasingly, revealing a playful expression. Tony Stark suddenly felt the chrysanthemum tighten. I'll take it off right away. Realizing that he had misunderstood, he was afraid that Lin Fan would go through the back door, so he quickly began to undress. It's about his own reputation, you can't joke. Soon Tony Stark was stripping off his shirt. I saw that on his chest, a small arc reactor was placed, like a cyberpunk mechanical prosthesis. It is difficult to imagine how a person can install a mechanical device in his chest. This feeling of the body being filled with foreign objects is very uncomfortable just thinking about it. At least Lin Fan was very resistant in his heart. And at this time, around the chest, there are hideous black lines, like centipedes. That is a sign that palladium has invaded the blood. Once the palladium content exceeds a certain standard, even if the shrapnel does not tear the heart, Tony Stark will die of poisoning. Tony, you. Seeing this, Pepper's eyes suddenly turned red. She covered her mouth in shock and looked at Tony's chest in disbelief. The hideous black line shocked him. It's no wonder that these days, Tony has often indulged himself, even more than before. It turns out that this is all because the other party is trying to relieve the pressure in his heart. After all, not everyone can face death calmly. This countdown to seeing oneself go to death, I am afraid that no one can remain indifferent. It's okay, Pepper, I'm fine. Looking at Pepper's worried look, Tony Stark said hardly. If a man doesn't have some wounds, then what kind of man is it, and those women like me as a tough guy? Poof. Pepper couldn't help but be stunned when he heard this. She cried and laughed, but when she saw that there were outsiders on the side, she suddenly became a little embarrassed. Ahem, you guys go on, when I don't exist. Lin Fan, who was fed a mouthful of dog food, said that he was very anxious. And his ridicule also made Pepper's pretty face flush, and he almost buried his head in the sofa. Tony Stark, on the other hand, was unimpressed. He shrugged and said, Mr. Lin, what are you going to do? Do I need to do anything to prepare? For example, call a doctor on call or something. No need. Lin Fan waved his hand directly, and then said, Trouble Miss Pepper to prepare a towel. Towel? Pepper was surprised, but quickly returned a towel. Tony Stark asked curiously, What are you doing with a towel? Is it still bleeding for a while, wiping the blood with a towel? But I think it would be better to use alcohol cotton. Lin Fan ignored Tony Stark's chatter the whole time. He took the towel himself, rolled it up, and handed it to Tony Stark. Bite it. Bite it? Tony Stark was confused and unsure. Pepper was also stunned. Lin Fan didn't bother to explain, and couldn't help but stuff the towel into Tony Stark's hand and said indifferently, It may hurt a little later, but I'm fast, you bear with it. Saying that, Lin Fan directly and quietly displayed his superpowers. With the flow of the surrounding magnetic field, an invisible force changed its form at will, so as to facilitate Lin Fan's next operation. I'm coming. With a faint reminder, Lin Fan shot directly. The invisible big hand reached directly to Tony Stark. The arc reactor on his chest was directly taken out of his chest by Lin Fan, and it floated out of thin air. At the same time, a sharp tingling suddenly struck. Tony Stark gasped. S.H.I.E.L.D. Episode 7. It hurts. It hurts so much. Tony Stark finally understands what towels do. He quickly stuffed the towel into his mouth. With severe pain coming one after another, he bit the towel desperately, and his hands grabbed the sofa fiercely. Pepper's pretty face on the side was full of worry, and he looked at this scene anxiously. Tony. Don't worry, I'm fine. Hiss. Tony Stark broke out in a cold sweat, but still squeezed out an ugly smile. His face turned pale. Mr. Lin, Tony he? Pepper quickly looked at Lin Fan. Lin Fan was unimpressed, and while exerting his superpowers, he casually replied. This is a normal reaction. I need to use the magnetic field to control the shrapnel and come out of Stark's chest. Hey. Stop chatting, too. Tony Stark saw Lin Fan distracted and suddenly said speechlessly. You two pay attention to the occasion, whether it is important for you to chat, or is my little life important? At this point, Tony Stark was dumbfounded. With such a dangerous operation, how can you still be distracted from chatting with others? What if I accidentally make a mistake? Those shrapnel are dangerous. Without the restraint of the arc reactor, if it flows into the heart, then I am afraid that he will directly burp. I'm sorry, Tony. Pepper realized it and was about to cry. She was afraid that she would affect Lin Fan's operation. But at this moment, Lin Fan said unimpressedly. Isn't it just shrapnel? Is it hard? I said it all quickly, isn't this the end? Saying that, Lin Fan clapped his hands indifferently. It's over? Hearing this, both Tony Stark and Pepper were stunned. You're not trying to fool me, are you? It's only been less than a minute, and you told me it's over. How can a man be so unsustainable? Tony Stark thought about the conversation he had with the doctor. The other party helplessly told him that if he wanted to remove shrapnel from his heart, even the world's most powerful doctors could not do it. Or that there is no 100% certainty of success. And once the operation fails, the consequence is that shrapnel flows into the heart and sudden death on the spot. But now what did he hear? It was just the effort between the conversations. He didn't even see what Lin Fan did, and then there was no then. I have every reason to suspect that you are deliberately teasing me. See for yourself. Lin Fan didn't bother to explain, pointing directly at Tony Stark's chest. This kind of thing is just sprinkling water for him. The same superpower of Magneto is just used for a minor operation, which is completely an insult to his superpower. If Magneto were here, he might be angry with them to death. Huh? Following Lin Fan's fingers, Tony Stark looked down. Suddenly, his whole person was stunned there. I saw that at the mouth of his heart, a pile of blood slag piled up, which looked a little shocking. It was all metal debris from the explosion of shells. Pepper on the side was also shocked. But soon she reacted, picked up the towel that fell out of Tony's mouth, and intimately helped the other party wipe the blood from his chest. And Tony Stark also came back to his senses. Forced to endure the strange appearance in his chest, he looked at Lin Fan stunned, but he didn't know what to say. Lin Fan's strength is also too strong, right? With this meticulous manipulation, he didn't even feel anything out of the ordinary. It hurts a little at the beginning. It turned out to be really like Lin Fan said. Although it will hurt, but soon, endure it and it will pass. Phew. Taking a deep breath to calm his mood, Tony Stark forced the ecstasy in his heart. Now he finally didn't have to worry about losing his life. And without the threat of shrapnel, he no longer has to wear the arc reactor every day, let alone palladium poisoning. From now on, that billionaire, genius inventor, playboy is back. Thank you, Mr. Lin. Tony Stark said sincerely gratefully. If it was a transaction before, then he got his wish at this moment, and he thanked Lin Fan from the bottom of his heart. No matter what Lin Fan asked, he would not hesitate. After all, Iron Man's life is still worth a lot. Thanks. Thank you, Mr. Lin. Pepper on the side was also grateful, crying with excitement. Tony finally doesn't have to worry about his life. Oh, you're welcome. Lin Fan smiled and looked very indifferent. It wasn't a big deal, but casually, he really didn't think it was a big deal. And his indifferent look also made Tony Stark more and more surprised. The person in front of him has a mysterious origin and extraordinary ability, and he is calm in the face of anything, and the whole is like a fog that cannot be seen. He couldn't help but wonder, who was this person divine? Mr. Stark. At this moment, Lin Fan said with rare seriousness. Although the shrapnel was removed, this wound on your chest should still be dealt with by a doctor as soon as possible. Aha, thanks for the reminder. Tony Stark realized it and felt the pain again. After all, the wound was real. Seeing this, Pepper on the side subconsciously stuffed the towel into Tony's mouth and directly blocked what the other party wanted to say. Tony Stark looked at Pepper in confusion, his eyes widened. Now it was Lin Fan's turn to endure it. Although he is professionally trained, he will not laugh out loud no matter how funny he is, unless he can't help it. Looking at this funny scene, he laughed directly. And someone's face also darkened. Family, who understands? Episode 8. S.H.I.E.L.D. Headquarters, Tri-Curved Wing Building. Coulson hurried to the director's office, and his mood was very solemn at this time. Standing in front of the door, he took a deep breath to calm his mood. Knock knock. There was a knock on the door, and a majestic voice came from the room. Come in. Coulson heard this and pushed the door straight in. Looking at his own bureau chief, he didn't have any nonsense and said bluntly. Director, I have an important briefing. What happened? Nick Fury, who was dealing with official business, looked up. His indifferent expression was ancient, and when his sharp gaze looked at Coulson, he suddenly gave people a feeling of not being angry and self-threatening. Coulson's body was shocked, and he quickly said, It's such a chief. Soon, Coulson directly explained the situation of the mission. Originally, he was ordered to contact Tony Stark. Just 3 hours earlier, he had received a call from Pepper saying that Obadistan was going to kill Tony Stark. At the same time, Pepper also claimed to have evidence against Obadistan. As soon as possible, he led people to the Stark Industrial Building. It's a pity that he is still one step slower. Obadistan, who controls the Iron Overlord armor, directly frantically abuses the field team, and even he and Pepper are chased to a dead end by the Iron Overlord. At the critical moment, Tony Stark fell from the sky wearing a battle armor. Iron Man and Iron Overlord start a real man 1v1 battle. And just when Tony Stark fell into the downwind and was in danger, the superpower Lin Fan appeared. Lin Fan directly burst the Iron Overlord with one move. Obadistan died. Such a powerful superpower suddenly appeared in New York. S.H.I.E.L.D. received no news. Not to mention that this exposed the loopholes in S.H.I.E.L.D.'s intelligence network. The potential threat of Lin Fan alone, S.H.I.E.L.D. cannot turn a deaf ear, otherwise the consequences are absolutely unimaginable. Superpowered? Trigger visions of heaven and earth? Suspected manipulation of magnetic fields? Listening to Coulson's report, Nick Fury's expression sank slightly. He was also aware of Lin Fan's strength. You must know that in recent years, more and more superpowers have appeared, and some of them have even embarked on the road of crime. And Lin Fan, such a powerful existence, the threat is self-evident. Ordinary official organizations simply have nothing to do with each other. Even if S.H.I.E.L.D. wants to deal with Lin Fan, I am afraid that it must dispatch an elite squad and even take out the black technology weapons developed by S.H.I.E.L.D. And most importantly, Lin Fan is suspected to be able to control the magnetic field, which is the most troublesome key. This means that they cannot use any weapons with metal. Otherwise, those weapons will only harm themselves. Such a powerful superpower suddenly appeared in New York and even killed Obadistan as soon as he struck. Powerful. The origin is a mystery. Shoot hard. This unknown threat is the last thing S.H.I.E.L.D. wants to see. Could it be that this person is from the Brotherhood? Coulson, what do you think? Nick Fury raised his eyes slightly and asked in an indifferent tone. He wanted to hear what the right-hand adjutant general thought. But Coulson was a little stunned at this time, thinking about Lin Fan's affairs, shocked by the strong strength that the other party had. Suddenly hearing his own director's question, he subconsciously replied. Look with your eyes. As soon as the words were spoken, Coulson realized that he had lost his words. Ahem, what is that? He quickly coughed lightly and said seriously. I think this person's origin is a mystery. The strength is strong, it is better not to provoke easily, mainly investigate, tempt, and make friends. Nick Fury nodded, non-committal. He ignored Coulson, who looked a little embarrassed. Coulson thought the same as he did. In the face of these capable people, saluting first and then soldiers is obviously the best choice, and it is excellent if you can recruit yourself. And in his heart, there has always been a bold idea. That's a plan called the Avengers. It's just that the timing is not right now, and even if he makes an application, the World Security Council is unlikely to agree. So about the Avengers plan, he never told anyone else. But this does not affect him to lay out in advance. Like Iron Man, Tony Stark, and even Lin Fan, who suddenly appeared, are all excellent candidates for him to form the Avengers. Thinking so, Nick Fury was calm on the surface. He looked at Coulson indifferently and said, Obadestin attempted to kill Tony Stark and committed suicide yesterday. You go and help Tony get rid of the tail of this matter. Yes, Chief. Coulson nodded when he heard this, without the slightest surprise. Tony Stark's father, Howard, was one of the founders of S.H.I.E.L.D, so Tony Stark is also their own. His own chief helped the other party, and he did not feel the slightest surprise. And this matter is what Obadestin deserves. Solving the problems by S.H.I.E.L.D is just enough to sell a favor and facilitate further contact with Tony Stark in the future. Even that Lin Fan had to accept their favor. One more thing. Coulson was about to leave, but just about to turn around, he was stopped by Nick Fury. As soon as he turned around, he saw that his chief looked a little strange. Without waiting for him to take the initiative to ask, Nick Fury said in a deep voice. Natasha wasted too much time outside, that mission was cancelled directly. I need someone to approach Tony Stark, preferably to find out all the information of that superpower. Episode 9. Time flies, and the night is silent. Helping Tony Stark get rid of the threat to his life, Lin Fan settled in the manor. After all, he has nowhere to go in the middle of the night. And even if he wanted to go, some genius inventor who was extremely curious about him would not let the lifesaver leave just like that. So half pushed, half down, Lin Fan simply settled down in the manor. In other words, Tony Stark is a billionaire. Just one of the many estates, the decoration is extremely luxurious in all aspects, and it is top-notch in every way. Lin Fan woke up and only felt refreshed. Hello Mr. Lin, do you need me to help you call breakfast? Inside the room, Jarvis's voice sounded. The manor is equipped with fully intelligent furniture, all controlled by artificial intelligence. Jarvis, like a sense of future science fiction. Let's get one. Omelette and milk are good. Lin Fan smiled and said casually. Yes, Mr. Lin. As soon as Lin Fan walked out of the room, breakfast was placed in the living room. There are no outsiders in the manor. So this simple breakfast, in fact, is from the hands of Jarvis. I just don't know how it tastes. With anticipation, Lin Fan sat there eating by himself. The rare taste turned out to be good. But this can also be understood. After all, Jarvis is a low-level artificial intelligence. Cooking is not simple. Lin Fan couldn't help but marvel at Tony Stark's life again. It's been too moisturizing, right? The rich are really inhumane, do whatever they want. Shaking his head secretly, Lin Fan attacked this extravagant life from the bottom of his heart. After breakfast, he got up and walked to the elevator position. Jarvis, where is Tony? Underground research room. Jarvis responded and intimately helped Lin Fan open the elevator. Lin Fan walked directly into it. The elevator automatically descends and soon comes to the research room located on the ground floor, which is also fully equipped in all aspects. Confidential research is conducted here by Tony Stark. In front of the bulletproof glass door, Jarvis's icy voice sounded. Mr. Lin, Mr. Stark has opened the permission for you. You can enter the test just by brushing your face. Hey. Is it like this? Lin Fan, who was about to make Jarvis call Tony, was stunned. He didn't expect that he also had permission. You must know that Tony Stark is very egoistic, even arrogant, and no one has ever been able to enter his eyes. And very few people can receive such special treatment. Count the entire Marvel movie, that is, Pepper, Obadstein, and Colonel Rhodes. Tony really has a heart. With a slight smile, Lin Fan couldn't help but be touched. Tony Stark also trusted him too much. It seems that this genius inventor of the Viper, plus the Playboy, is not as bad as rumored. But what Lin Fan didn't know was that Tony Stark didn't think so much. Tony Stark's reason for opening is actually simple. Except for Lin Fan after saving him, Tony Stark simply felt that these protections could not stop a powerful superpower. Especially a super person who can control the magnetic field. It is estimated that in this world, there is no place that can stop Lin Fan. Dee, the verification passed. After face recognition, the bulletproof glass door slowly opened. Lin Fan walked directly into the laboratory. Looking at the various experimental devices displayed around, although Lin Fan couldn't understand it, he could see the inhumanity of someone's trench. In the hall of the laboratory, he finally met Tony Stark. "Hi Mr. Lin, how did you rest last night?" When Tony Stark saw Lin Fan, he immediately smiled and said, "The days without beautiful women really make me almost unable to sleep. How about a pool party at night?" "Are you sure?" Lin Fan seemed to be smiling and ridiculed. "If Pepper comes back tonight and sees you throwing a pool party, I won't save you a second time." As soon as these words came out, Tony Stark became embarrassed. He suddenly showed a weak expression. Although he didn't want to admit it, if it was Pepper, he really didn't want to hurt the other party. He cares more about Pepper than his own momentary pleasure. Ahem, what is that? Tony Stark coughed lightly and quickly changed the subject. "Has Mr. Lin eaten? Look at my armor, is there anything to improve?" "Eaten. Jarvis did it, very good." Lin Fan walked closer to his own devices. Sitting across from Tony Stark, he looked at the drawings on the table and said to himself, "The steel warframe has a lot of potential, but the details are a little worse." "Oh. How to say?" Tony Stark suddenly became interested when he heard this. Originally, he just wanted to change the topic, but he didn't expect that Lin Fan seemed to really have some ideas. Advice from a powerful superpower, he couldn't help but be curious. "Have you ever thought about the upgrade direction of the steel warframe?" Lin Fan looked directly at Tony and didn't answer the rhetorical question. "Of course there is." Tony Stark nodded without hesitation. He was about to say that he wanted to study the anti-Lin Fan battle armor, but as soon as the words came to his lips, he swallowed them back abruptly. Saying this in front of others, he was really afraid of being killed by Lin Fan. So he immediately changed his tone, pointed to the drawing and explained. "At present, Mark III uses space alloy materials, the energy is the arc reactor, equipped with many weapon systems. I think it should be optimized and upgraded in the direction of portability." Episode 10. Ding, the host heard that Tony Stark transformed the warframe, and the inspiration burst out to create nano warframe technology. Tony Stark's voice fell, and the icy system prompt suddenly sounded. This suddenly made Lin Fan stunned. "My inspiration? How could I not know it?" Suddenly, a flood of information flooded into my mind. Almost at the same time, Lin Fan instantly felt that he was empowered, and nanotechnology was already proficient. Metal particleization, random change of form, that is, nanotechnology. Lin Fan muttered secretly, his eyes lit up. This technology is too far ahead. In this day and age, even smartphones are just becoming popular, years before Tony Stark developed nanotechnology. That is, Wakanda, which sits on the vibranium vein, has a scientific and technological level far beyond the outside world. But he directly created nano warframe technology out of thin air. One can imagine what a fortune can be created by mastering nanotechnology in hand. It could even create a second Stark Industries. But Lin Fan shook his head and gave up this tempting idea. Developing business is clearly not his pursuit. Not to mention that he has no background and no startup capital, just managing the company is very troublesome. And he is the one who dislikes trouble the most. Moreover, Lin Fan knew very well that this world seemed calm, but it would suffer various twists and turns in the future. Even in the depths of the boundless starry sky, there is a purple potato essence looking at the tiger. The most important thing he should do is to improve his strength. Otherwise, when the purple potato essence comes to the earth and snaps his fingers, won't he gamble on that 50% chance? But nanotechnology can't be wasted either. Secretly groaning, Lin Fan looked at Tony Stark in front of him, and he had already made a decision in his heart. Isn't this a very useful money-making tool? It's up to you. The corners of Lin Fan's mouth raised imperceptibly. He pointed to the drawing and shook his head. You are indeed right, but it is too one-sided. In fact, even you are probably just another idea, right? Aha. Tony Stark was speechless when he heard this. Because what Lin Fan said was really right. In just one day, it was rare for him to think of this, so everything was just an idea. Exactly how to upgrade the Warframe, he is completely black. At this time, he was broken by Lin Fan, and he immediately became embarrassed. But then he retorted with some dissatisfaction. So you have any ideas? I know these problems myself, but what is the use of not solving them? Who says I can't fix it? Lin Fan smiled and did not answer the rhetorical question. Tony Stark suddenly became interested and said in disbelief. Is it any wonder you also know scientific research? His words were full of doubts. After all, Lin Fan himself has a very strong superpower. If he knows scientific research, wouldn't he be a civilian martial arts all-rounder? Then his only advantage is left to be handsome and rich. Slightly understood. Lin Fan smiled faintly. He also ignored Tony Stark's skeptical gaze. Picking up the pen and paper on the side, he immediately began to write and draw, directly drawing the model of the particle collider. And that's the key to particleizing common metals in nanotechnology. He wasn't at all worried about Tony Stark's meeting with fortune. And as Lin Fan described, Tony Stark, who didn't care much at first, gradually widened his eyes. He looked at the model on the drawing in shock and exclaimed in disbelief. This is particle collider. After drawing the last stroke, Lin Fan said indifferently. This technology can punish ordinary metals, which are so-called nanometals, and have the properties of changing forms at will. Hearing this, Tony Stark was suddenly shocked. He looked at the drawings in shock and excitement. He didn't expect that the nanotechnology he dreamed of would appear in front of him so unexpectedly. And the technology was still demonstrated by a superpower. He suddenly had some doubts about life. Could it be that he is a genius inventor who is not comparable to a superpower in the field he is best at? Shouldn't Lin Fan also be a super genius? Phew. Call. Tony Stark took deep breaths to calm his mind. But when he looked at Lin Fan, the shock in his heart was overflowing, as if he was looking at a monster. Don't look at me like that, have you forgotten what my superpowers are? Lin Fan shrugged disapprovingly and asked rhetorically. Superpowers? Tony Stark suddenly realized. Master the magnetic field. Lin Fan has this superpower, and even the manipulation of the magnetic field is meticulous, and he can affect the metal with the help of the magnetic field. Compared with ordinary people like them, it does have a natural advantage. Doesn't it make sense to develop nanotechnology at the molecular level? Ah. What a hell. Although he accepted Lin Fan's explanation, Tony Stark was still very shocked. Why do people think people can research and innovate at will? From project initiation to completion, a technology requires a lot of manpower and material resources, and even has a high probability of failure. But listening to Lin Fan's meaning, he seems to have developed nanotechnology by relying on his superpowers. The gap is simply appalling. Tony Stark, a genius inventor, expressed the desire to cry. Is it really hard to open it? For a while, Tony Stark was dumbfounded. Huh. Looking at Tony Stark's complicated expression, Lin Fan smiled lightly and said amazingly. Tony, how about this technology for you?